This episode of the Juan of Words podcast is brought to you by our friends at Comcast Houston, who we are very proud to be working with. And they recently awarded through their Comcast Rise investment fund in the community of Houston in the entrepreneur
At the price of how much?
They invested $1 million.
They sure did. To how many? To how many?
To 100 businesses. They each received $10,000. So
there's a lot that you can do with $10,000 in your business.
Yeah, and we are grateful for Comcast for their support of our small business and for the support of other small businesses. So enjoy the podcast, and thank you to our friends at Comcast.
Enjoy the rest of the episode. Hi, welcome to another episode of the Juan of Words podcast. My name is Angelica Casares.
And I'm Juan Alanis. Thanks for being here.
Woot woot.
Yeah, and this week we're not in Houston anymore. No,
we're never in Houston.
I know, it's like every time we record, we're not in Houston. But actually, we've been in Arkansas for the last couple of days, and we were just here not too long ago. We were here like a couple of weeks ago, so it's like it feels like we've been here on a longer trip than we have been.
Yeah.
But since we last talked to you guys, since we last were on this podcast, we had a big.
Well, let's mention this. Why are we here this time around?
Why are we here this time?
Yeah. Around? Why did we come? Why did we come?
Well, we had a couple of meetings that we were. Like,
No. What was the real reason we came?
I don't remember.
Juan.
Oh, the Selena.
Juan. Hello.
I was, you know what? Earlier today, when I told you let's record, I was like, there was two reasons that we were here, and then I was like, wait a minute, no, there were two reasons that we had traveled here recently, and one of them was I was like, oh yeah, because
the biggest reason is because the Northwest Arkansas Museum. No, that's not what it's called. Crystal Bridges.
Crystal Bridges Museum.
Crystal Bridges Museum opened up a new exhibit.
Yeah.
The Selena. Is it Forever Selena or Selena Forever?
It's Selena Forever, Siempre Selena, or something like that.
Something like that. It's a new exhibit that they opened up. They collaborated with the photographer that took a lot of the pictures of Selena, and it's an amazing exhibit. Our friend just so happened to be part of it, and we came along for the ride. Yeah. We came to come see it. Yeah.
No, it's a pretty cool exhibit because one of the things that is like it has a lot of pictures of Selena that you probably haven't seen before,
or like that you think you've seen.
Like for me, it was pictures that I had that I've seen of like similar pictures of her, but I guess it was how when you do a photo shoot and they do a bunch of pictures, and the ones that are like the best ones or the ones that are selected, the editorial ones, they end up going everywhere. Those are the ones that everybody's seen. But in the exhibit, they have like all the other pictures, maybe not all of them, but a bunch of them. They have a bunch of the other pictures that never made it onto the magazines and things like that. So that was pretty cool to see. And then
they had a lot of backstories, and so it had a lot of description and had a lot of there was more detail into the pictures. And
thanks to our like you mentioned, our friend Tony, who cooked us up.
I didn't want to name him by name.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to mention him by our friend.
Oh, but I thought you said his name earlier.
I didn't. I said our friend happened to be a part of it.
Well, thanks to our friend who happened to invite us.
Now that you know his name is Tony.
You know his name. Yeah. But thanks to our friend who happened to invite us, we actually got the VIP treatment. So we actually got a chance to have the curator of the actual exhibit walk us through.
That's the first time I've ever experienced that. Have a curator along with us to give us like a detail of like the backstory of an exhibit. I've never had that explanation, and I never had that experience. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and he explained like all the like little like those backstories
details
that were written on the wall that you can go and you can read some of the backstories. But it was interesting to hear like not only about this exhibit, but I guess how the museum like selected it and all, kind of like the backstory.
I guess his reasoning, because he was one of the curators that why the exhibit is there now.
So that was one of the reasons.
It's a big deal for Crystal Bridges to have an exhibit like that there.
Yeah,
especially for the community here. Like you hear Arkansas, you don't necessarily think there's like an influx of Hispanics, but there is, and so
a growing one at that.
Yeah, and so it's going to be from what we've heard the experience of like I guess some of the workers and some of the people who've already seen it, like they're already so emotionally invested, like they can't believe an exhibit like that is actually here existing at such a I would call, I don't know if I would call it prestigious museum, but I would call it as such a national level of a museum like Crystal Bridges. because of its location and the actual infrastructure, like the what am I trying to say? The infrastructure, the building itself.
The architecture?
The architecture, yes, because of the architecture of the building, actually gets a lot of visitors. It gets a lot of visits because it's new, and it's not in New York. It's not in San Francisco. It's not in LA. It's not like in Chicago. It's in the middle of America. And so to have a museum like that, to carry such an exhibit like that, is a big deal. And you're right, there are heavy hitters behind it. Yes, it does matter that there are heavy hitters behind it, but not necessarily because of that.
Okay.
Yeah, because people, like, we hear it all the time. We hear it from the museum itself and from like the curator even, and some of the people there, that people fly in from all over the nation to come and visit just that museum. Yeah.
The reason that we were actually here the first time was because we had dropped off Edgar at college. So he's finally...
Oh, you mean not this visit, the first visit?
Yeah, the first visit. So we had actually dropped him off at school, which he, it was like not in Arkansas, but in Oklahoma. We had dropped him off, and that's why we ended up coming here, because we were like, oh, you know what? Let's not that far from Oklahoma. Let's go to Arkansas, because we've been to this area a few times in terms of the Northwest Arkansas area. So, it was just another trip that we wanted to make.
Can I tell you why we ended up here that time? Because I knew that if we came here, so he's actually closer to locally, like geographically, he's closer to where we're at right now than he is to home. By a few hours. So I was like, okay, if we come this way and we drive back, I get to see him again. So I was like, I want to see him again. So I came here first, and I was like, I just, the area makes me happy. So I was like, I want to be like in La La Land for a little bit. I want to feel, just detached for a moment. And then so when we drove back, sure enough, I got really overwhelmed, and I was like, I knew that was going to happen, and I didn't want that to happen the first time around. Because I got to see him one more time. You know what I mean? So yeah, so the first time we were dropping off the kid at school. I can't believe every time I say that, I can't believe I'm actually saying that. Like, we dropped him off at school, like college.
Yeah, I mean, it's been different, and I think it's just the fact that probably a lot of our friends are around the same age, or they're in that same age group where their kids were about the same age. But like, I've been seeing a lot of people that are doing the same thing, and I'm like, it's different. Like, it wasn't like we knew that it was part of the plan, was that he was going to go away to school. But I think once we actually got there to the point where we were like, okay, we'll see you later, it was a little bit different. It was like, wait, like I wasn't expecting like that so quickly, and so it felt a little bit weird.
What do you mean so quickly?
Yeah, like I wasn't expecting it so quickly, so like it felt like it just popped up. Like first, like in the summer, like when we were preparing for it, I was thinking like, oh, okay, like we're waiting for it. It's gonna come. It was like, okay. And at one point,
we were preparing it for a while.
At one point, it was like, okay, like, all right, I'm just ready to like, get this over with. And then when it would actually happen and it was there and we were saying goodbyes and this and that, I was like, wait, like I feel like it's too soon. Like it's not like I wasn't prepared for it, because
do you think somebody's gonna stop you and be like, whoa, hold on, you get to stay like a whole month with him, and then
no, I guess my thought at that moment was like, nobody really ever prepares you for like
a departure.
Nobody ever really tells you that that's like ultimately what the plan is, not dropping them off at school, but like that they're gonna grow up and have their own lives, and that they're gonna like, that's part of the plan, is for them to like step out on their own,
you see,
away from you.
It was so sudden.
That's what to me felt like too soon, because then it was like the back to school shopping was happening, and
it was for me, it was too sudden. It was too quick. Like, he went off to school, right? And then that was it. There was no more, hey mom, I'm hungry, hey, where y'all at, hey, what are y'all doing? It was like from one day to the next. We dropped him off. And it's not like he lives in the same city. He lives hours away, and so it's taking some time still to get used to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I guess to me what I was thinking is like, when I went to Walmart, like I remember going to Walmart, like, and some of the other stores in the area when we were still in Houston, and it was the back to school time, so everybody was picking up the stuff for their kids, and you know how
like the uniforms and stuff.
Yeah, it gets crazy like in the aisles, and like everybody seems like they're competing, or everybody waits till the last minute to go back to school shopping. So then they're like, the folders are everywhere, the colors are everywhere, like there's just like a big, like a big old mess when you walk into the store.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like this is the first year that we don't actually have to worry about that. Like we don't even have to think about it anymore.
Well, we really technically didn't have to worry about it for like the last 2 years of high school for him. I mean, we still had uniforms, and he still had some back to school shopping, but it wasn't like binders and color coded like folders and number 2 pencils and college roll paper. Like it wasn't much of that. He was still preparing
of it, but the pressure, not so much the supplies themselves, but the pressure of like, you know what, school starts, the routine gets back up, like you have to wake up, like he had to wake up at a certain time, or you have to make sure he's up and he's
you mean still responsible for him.
Yeah, like all that stuff that comes along with it. And I was like, man, like that, like it like, you know, when you like in the moment when you're in it, when you're doing it, when you're little and like you're doing all that stuff, it's like, when is this gonna be over?
Yeah.
Like when do I not have to do this anymore? And then all of a sudden it's like, you don't have to do it anymore, and it's like, wait, like when now what do I do with all this like,
with all my time all this, that I wanted to complain about,
energy and like free like you know, like you don't have all these like things, like, well, there's still like responsibilities, but it's not the same. So I don't know, I was like, it's weird. So we're like a couple of weeks in to I guess what you would technically call empty nesters.
Stop saying that.
And every time somebody,
I heard somebody.
Every time somebody mentions that to us, and they're like, "Oh, so you guys are empty nesters?"
We're like, "What is that?"
And I'm like,
I'm choking on my spit. I'm like, I don't even know what that is.
I don't know. I guess we are.
I don't even know what that is. I don't know what it is. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right to me. Stop calling me that. But I guess it technically, I guess it is true.
I feel like they're calling me a snowbird or something. Like,
yeah, doesn't it feel like that? Like they're calling you like.
Like, wait a minute, what are you calling? Don't insult me.
That is non-existent in our families, so we don't know what that means.
Not that it's non-existent. I think it's just like unusual. And then I guess
non-existent.
And then no para tirarnos flores, but I mean, like, we're pretty young, so.
Epa. No, you know what? No, we're not pretty young. Estamos joven.
Oh, okay.
Estamos joven. I don't know about you.
No, like the other day.
But I'm young.
What did you say the other day? Like, we were having a conversation, and then all of a sudden, Angelica was like, she was referring to herself and several other people, and she's like, "Oh, you know, like us young women," and I don't know what.
Yeah, I said us in our 30s, us young women 30s or something.
Yeah, and I was like, "What?"
Juan looks at me. He's like, 30s. I'm like, what do you mean?
And I was like,
I'm 39. He's
and
like,
I said, okay, te la paso, because it's your birthday's like coming up in a few months. All right, te la paso, but like, come on. Like, if I'm over 40, you're not too far behind me.
I am still in my prime time. I'm still 40. Even prime time is 40. No, but
40's the new 20.
40's the new 20. Whatever it takes. But yeah, I'm still, I feel like I'm savoring the last of my 30s. And so anytime I can like put in there that I'm still 30, I am still 30. Say what you want to say. I'm still 30.
Well, enjoy the last couple of days.
No, but I have to say it is, like I'm on the fence. So I know it's exciting to be 40 because not everybody has that privilege to turn 40. But it is an era that I'm letting go of. Like I 30, like I'm gonna be 40. I would have, like, when you're young, you don't think of yourself being that age. At 30, I thought it was like old. At 40, I'm like, I still feel now I'm gonna say I still feel young, but that's in terms of like depending on when you ask me and what I'm doing. Sometimes I feel like sitting here talking here to the camera, I feel young, right? But if I'm out there like trying to hike, I don't feel young. I feel 40. So
like, to give you an example, so like this weekend we ended up going to see a concert that you wanted to go see. We ended up going to a concert here in Northwest Arkansas.
A concert. It was like
at a little bitty hall, and it was like latino, like
Can I
say the artist name? Yeah. So it was like Horóscopos de Durango, which if you
Los Horóscopos.
Los Horóscopos de Durango, which they're two sisters that sing and they have a band.
No, it's a band, but it just happens to be the lead singers are sisters because their dad started the band. So anyway,
and they're well known because of the sisters. And so we went to this dance, and
it was a dance hall, but it's not tiny, but there wasn't many people
compared to Houston. I felt like it was tiny, but it was like,
oh, for sure, yeah,
it was like maybe like, I don't know, like maybe 50, 100 people.
It felt like we were sitting at a VFW.
But the reason I bring that up is because when we were sitting there, I told you, I was like, I think all the people in here are like 50 plus. I was like, I think they're all like over 50. I told you, I whispered in your ear, and you were like, no, I think they're all our age. And I was like, no, they're not. They're not our age. I was looking around at them, and I was like, no, they look viejitos. Like they're
like older. I was like,
so I say that to say,
I was like, did you look in the mirror, sweetheart? So they look our age.
So I say that to say that I think sometimes we think that we look or we act younger than we actually are.
We think we're young. We think we are not. No, I think people can differ.
Because then I started looking around, and I was like, you know what? I think they are probably our age.
No, they were.
And then I won't say what I said because it was kind of
yeah, you're being mean.
But I think sometimes we think that we look, or that we feel, not that we look, but that we feel younger than we actually are. Because I think like in your body you still feel younger, but at a certain point, like you can't do certain things the way you used to do them when you were in your 20s and your 30s. It's just not there. The energy.
What do you miss about? Yeah, I was just gonna ask you, what do you miss about truly being young? For me, it's that energy.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was
of like powering through and not like feeling the effects of it tomorrow.
To me, it's like it's noticeable that I can't go like I used to. Like where before I feel like I didn't get tired as much. Like I didn't need as much downtime. Like now I feel like if I do a lot of things, if I go hard, then I need like time to recuperate.
You need rest time,
and I need like a lot of like an extended period of rest time in order to recuperate.
Okay, that's physical. That's definitely physical. So and that's like, whether we're hiking, before. Whether we're dancing, whether you know what I'm saying. Like we're like that doesn't even sound right. Anyway, but mentally, I feel like I'm sharper. Mentally, I feel like I can cut the shit immediately, and I know like I can navigate faster and easier at my age. I
definitely feel like I'm I want to say wiser, but I don't know if that's the right word. But I do feel like I have more experience. So like things that like before we came, I the little gauge on the car came on and it said low tire pressure, and I had seen it.
Baby, that story just makes good sense. But go ahead with your story.
The what?
That story is about to make good sense, what you're saying, but I know where you're going. Go ahead.
So I seen it, and normally I would like in my younger years I would have seen it, and I would have probably been like, ignored it and not paid as much of attention to it. But I saw it, and then like I knew that we were going to make a drive, and I was like, before we left, I was like, you know what, let me take care of that. Like it was in the back of my mind. Like, so there, like I was already being more responsible than I was when I was younger. and then when we were leaving, like I had to go pick up the equipment so that we could record while we were here. And I went to the studio, picked up the equipment, and I noticed when I walked out that the tire was low. So I was like, oh crap, let me go put some air on it to see if it's the tire or not. And the thought, I had a split second thought where I was like, should we just go ahead and go? Because we were already running really late to leave Houston, and we were driving straight through. So I was like, it's going to be a long ass drive. And so I was like, should I just chance it and leave? And then if we get a flat, I'll just fix it on the road. Or should I go and like get it checked out and make sure it's a flat, even though it's going to take me a couple hours, extend our trip by a couple hours. And long story short,
delay our trip.
Long story short, like I did the mature, responsible thing.
See, that's what I was going to say. It just makes good sense. I don't think that has to do with age. I think that it has to do.
No, I think it does. I think it is because I was like, no, if I wait, I'm going to have to. If I wait, it's going to be flat, and then we're going to be stuck on the road. We're going to be like out there. We're going to have to like.
We're going to be out there.
In the hot. We're going to be. We're going to get on. We're going to like argue and this and that. And I was like, it's not even worth it. I was like, it's not even worth it. I was like, let's just delay your trip by a couple hours. It's going to be fine and be safe. Better safe than sorry. But I was like, when I was younger, I wouldn't even have said anything. I would have just been like, "Oh,
Te valía madre." You would have just taken off and been like, "Oh, what happened?"
I would have just been like, "You know what? Let's chance it. There's enough air. Let me keep filling it at the gas stations when I stop, and then see how far we get before it gets flat or before I have to stop somewhere else and fix it."
And you would have delayed your trip anyway because you would have sat there on the side of the road with a flat tire anyway.
So like the pendejadas have gone down. Like the stupid decisions have gone down, have decreased. Yeah. So I think in that sense, like it is maturity. I think in that sense, it is a little bit of
look at you.
A bit of the old age of the experience. To be like, you've already done that before. You don't want to do that. You don't want to go down that road again.
For me, I feel like I can cut the bullshit. Like I feel like I can just. I have the sense of being like the liberty of being cynical sometimes. I feel like I can think what I want, do what I want, act how I want, and I know the repercussions of that action. So I'm less likely to do that bullshit. You know what I mean? To say or act in the way that I would have in the past, because I don't feel like
you're more measured in your words, or what?
Yeah, in my words, in my actions, and even with it work. You know what I mean? Like when it's just, I can cut the bullshit. I know what I want, and I don't feel like I have to go in circles to get it. I feel like I go directly to it. Like I not necessarily shortcuts. I just take a direct path instead of going around and around and around and be like, oh, this, or maybe I should try this. Maybe I should try this. You know what I mean?
I feel like you're better at not leaving things in the wind. Like, and I will do part of that. I kind of will do like what I want, but I'll kind of leave things in the balance. I won't I won't make it clear like what I'm doing.
You back up on your bullshit, don't belong to me. You acting all sleazy, I don't like what I see. I got all the game, don't get fucked in your brain. I can do you worse than you ever did me first.
My name is Angelica Casares.
And I'm Juan Alanis.
So if you're out here and you've left us a rating, Juan, you just told me right now we had a rating, right?
Yeah, I was saying that I was saying that people have a lot of opinions about our podcast and our like.
I don't know if they have it. Like they're not talking about us. They don't have a lot of opinions, but they've left us a review.
No, I say that jokingly because we've gotten a few comments here and there. And,
okay. So we're encouraging people to come leave us a rating and a review.
So you're right. One thing about us is that we are pretty thick-skinned. At least I consider myself to be pretty thick-skinned.
You are.
So
don't be mean to me.
So we take everything. We take all the feedback that you give us, and we really appreciate it because we feel like this is a learning experience for us as we're kind of learning to do this more and more. And where we started a year ago is not where we are now, but who knows where we're going to be in a year from now if we're still doing this.
Yeah,
but
we're enjoying it.
We wanted to take a moment while you're listening to this podcast to just say thank you for being here, thank you for listening to us, and to remind you to share this podcast and any other podcast that you might have enjoyed with your friends and family, and to let you know that we're on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud, all that good places that you can go and listen to podcasts. But you can find all our links at juanofwords.com and on all our social media accounts.
Back up on my piece shit, I don't care if you don't like it. I'm really different, don't gotta show you I'm like that. Like the baby.
No, what I was saying is I think you're better at finalizing things, like doing what you want, and like being like not leaving things hanging. And I still like struggle with like ending things. I'll just leave it. I won't end it. I won't like say this is what I'm doing. I'll just leave it. Like I'll just like, you know what?
Yeah, I think I'm better at ending and starting.
Yeah. Like I don't like the ending. I can start all day, but I don't want to end it.
You know what, Juan? Okay, so talking about that, there is something that speaking of that and why I start and end things, and how the more you know, the better you understand, and it's all just being in the know. So back a while back, I heard something and I was like, oh my God, is that me? I think that's talking to me. That phrase speaks to me too profoundly, and I don't like that. And so I've been doing a lot of just internal digging. For the last 2 years, I've been on this like mental journey.
The phrase though?
So the phrase, it's not a phrase, but it's a saying. It's called addicted to validation.
Oh, okay. Basically,
it's unlike narcissism, validation addiction happens primarily because of crippling insecurity. Validation addicts aren't capable of handling a normal, healthy relationship most of the time, and means you need to break things off if you see any of these three, whatever. Of like, I'm sorry, I'm reading part of the article, but basically, it's validation. You're constantly seeking validation. Sometimes it's pertinent to some people in your life, and sometimes it's general public, and then sometimes it's somebody needs to tell you you're doing a good job for you to know that you're doing a good job. So yeah.
And you felt like you were seeking validation?
Yeah, I think we all do in some sense. We all it feels good, for somebody to tell us that we're doing a good job. It feels, I mean, you tell me, does it not make sense that if you're doing something, how do you know what you're doing is correct if somebody doesn't tell you, hey, that's a good job?
Yeah, I mean, it does feel good.
You know what I mean? But there comes a moment where
the way you're describing it in that thing is like it's like bad validation, no?
Yeah, not bad validation. It's just you can't seem to do things or move on from things unless somebody tells you that's good. That was a good job. So for me, it was like, why do I need validation from anybody? And I felt like there's also like these, like I've been watching a lot of reels or like TikToks where people talk about, this is a really good one, where you get so invested in somebody's, you get so invested into someone or something. Anyway, like there was a TikTok earlier, or there was a reel earlier that said that was like, how do you get your heart broken from somebody that you weren't even dating? How do you get, you know what I'm saying? So it's part of validation, right? Until they see you, then you really, but that happens to everybody.
Yeah. No, I think everybody wants validation, but I guess what you're saying is something about like unhealthy, like
a very unhealthy validation like that, like getting your heart broken by somebody who you weren't even dating.
But what, like a celebrity or somebody that like?
No, just like somebody who you like. For example, like you maybe you'll have the same a friend group, or maybe it's somebody that you know and you like them, or you really want to be their best friend, or they don't even know that you think about them often, but yet they did something or said something that you were disapproving of, or they didn't see you the way you wanted them to see you, which is just validating you, which is just saying, hey, I see you, you're a good person, and you know what I'm saying? Until they do that, then your heart's broken. Like you're so like in transit, you're so enamored with like, and it's the same thing with addicted to validation. Is like you do things in hopes that somebody sees it, in hopes that somebody tells you you're doing a good job.
Well, I don't know if this is what you're talking about, but like I guess with social media, like it's easy to like,
yeah, that's part of it too,
to fall into that trap of like wanting validation.
Well, here's the thing: if that's all you do,
share, or like who interacts with you and who doesn't,
Well, yes. So if that's all you do, say that's your say for example, if that's your work, or if you're trying to start social and you're trying to like take off, or you're trying to do something, yes, it can be very unhealthy, right? Because you're addicted to the validation, whether that's the likes, the comments, the shares, the all of that, right? But I think some people don't know that it's more than just sharing a picture and expecting people to like it. Like there's actual like more to it, like investing time into engaging with others so they can come and engage with your content.
But when you say that you've been on a journey for 2 years, what do you mean by that? Like, what does that mean?
A personal mental journey. And I'm very cathartic. I go back to my my pictures and my videos for the last 2 years, and I just, every time that I'm feeling high as a kite, where I'm not like smoke high, not like marijuana high, but like high on life, like just feeling excited about opportunity, or I'm feeling really low and I'm having just a bad week and I'm having a horrible moment, I'm taking the habit of either recording a video of the things that I think, or the moment, just to capture the moment, just to know, just to remember it, and why I felt like that. So I can look back, and and that makes me cry. I have the opportunity, unlike my ancestors, unlike my grandmother, and even unlike my mother, that I have the opportunity to go back into my own life through pictures and video and remember how I felt. Right? If you wanted to do that in the past, first of all, you had to be literate to be able to read and write your own writing, to be able to, through journals, right? Mm-hmm. But it takes you only back to that thought. But when it becomes to images and video, it takes you back to that moment.
But how does that tie into validation?
Because I'm validating myself now. Now I get to go back and see where I was at. Now I go back to see and be like, why did you feel like this? Where were you? Like, to me, I'm only seeking my own approval. And if something doesn't make me happy, it's because it doesn't make me happy. Not because somebody told me it's not a good idea. Or not because somebody told me it was a good idea. And so I have that luxury now, and I did that earlier where I laid in bed and I was looking through video, and I do this every couple of months or every couple of weeks, and I go through my videos and I go through my pictures, and I'm like, I'll just, and you'll see me, you'll be like, what's wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know, I'm just sitting here crying, leave me the hell alone. But I'll very cathartic, just like in tears, because not that I think I've grown, but because it was just such a fucked up moment, and I get to experience it again. I get to experience that. I can't believe I experienced that. I can't believe I was so happy at that moment, or that fucking moment sucked big time, but yeah, so pictures of my family, my nieces and nephews, like just laughing and giggling and all of that.
I forget that I have those pictures. Like, I forget. Like, I never make it a habit to go back and look at pictures. Like, I always forget that I have them until, like, if I'm looking, like, if the only time I go back and is it, like, if I'm looking for something, like, if I'm looking for, like, oh, there's a picture. Yeah, I took a picture of that, like, thing or that card or something. And then I'll scroll back to look for something. And then when I do, then I'm like, oh, yeah, like, I remember that. And like, but I don't make it a habit to go back and look at my pictures because I forget. Like, I forget to do that. Like, it never, never occurs to me, like, oh, you know what, go back and, like, look at those pictures.
Yeah, I make it a habit because, like I said, I'm seeking my own approval. And I think I've wasted so much of my time seeking the approval of others. And sometimes that includes, like, even going as far as, like, seeking the approval of, like, my mom. You know what I mean? I love her to death. I love her. But it's very difficult to appease your parents. Very difficult. Because they always can find ways that you can improve.
I think it's because they see a different, like, they see
your
you
potential
from a different lens. Like, they don't, like, they're not looking at you. They're not looking at you like the way that you look at yourself with all your flaws and, like, all your issues. They look at you like, they see, I guess in a way, I feel like they see themselves like 20, 30 years younger, and they're like, man, had I had the opportunities that you have right now, here's what I would have done with them, or would now, like, living what I have lived. Like, I think that, you're making some mistakes, and it's like they want to stop you from making some mistakes, or like they want to, like, guide you, but I think it's like it's your life, so they can't. Well,
I don't think it's about my life.
No, it is your life. It is your life. You're the one living it.
Yeah, but that's okay.
And you're the one living it. You're the one that's experiencing your experience, and they can't experience what you're experiencing. Even the way that they raised you, they can't experience the way that you were raised by them. So
yeah, for sure.
It's hard to. So I think at a certain point, you also have to, like as a parent, you have to let go and be like, well, even though I see the mistakes that the kid is making, I have to let them make the mistakes.
But here's the thing, though. Like, okay, so for me, it's more like, it's not the same issues that we have, that she had and I have.
Right.
It's years later. And so her mentality, our parents sometimes, they tend to be stuck and what was right for them.
But don't you feel like you also do it with like Edgar, like where you think like, man, when I was your age, I didn't have those opportunities. When I was your age, I didn't have the chance to do this or that.
Yeah.
And you want him to act differently because of what you never had the opportunity to. Because you're looking back at him and you're like, had I had that opportunity,
I would have done it.
I would have like run with it.
Yeah. Because I think I would have run with it, and who knows if that's to be the truth? Because
but it's the
I
same
might
thing.
not have.
So then your mom is looking at you like, if I had your opportunities, I would have run with your opportunities.
Yeah, no, I definitely understand. Yeah, Juan, but that's still like a learning thing, right? Is that we don't.
That's why I say it's your life. Like nobody can live your life for you.
Yeah. So it's still like I try. If I focus on me, then I'll be.
That just made me think of when people teenagers said, "It's my life."
Yeah. If I focus on me, I can do the best I can do for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so Edgar's at an age where he's still very young.
Yeah.
He's still a kid. For me, he's still a kid. Honestly, I don't think people start maturing until they're 21. Honestly, by the time they're 25, then yes, to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, no, you did that. That's kind of stupid. Don't do that. Right. Then I feel like I can say that. But until then, even at 21, I still feel like they're still young, they're still kids. But I don't want to navigate life for him like that.
Yeah. But
and so for me, just me. It's only me. And this is not true for everybody. For me to not get so involved, I try to keep busy and try to live out my life and not try to live vicariously through his.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's what my mom is doing, or any parent is doing that. It's just that they do want the best for us, and they think that they know better for us than we know for ourselves.
But wouldn't it be like the ultimate like life lesson that you get to the end and then it's like, oh, my parent did know better for me, then I should have listened to them.
Yes, there are many times that things have happened where they know better than I do.
And you're like, oh,
and they were just trying to shield me from that. And she was just trying to like protect me from that.
Yeah.
But the reality is that
you had to go through it for yourself.
You have to experience. People can show you how to swim out of water, but how do you know it's actually working unless you put them into the water for them to swim? So we can practice and practice and practice and practice unless I jump into the water. How do I know what I'm doing? Right? And I feel like that's the lesson life learned for me was that. And so I'm like, okay.
But then you have the other parents that like they don't show you how to swim, they just throw you in the water.
Swim or sink, kid. Sayonara. I've experienced that too.
That's another approach.
Yeah, that is another approach. But yeah, so addicted to validation. And like I said, some part of it was like being addicted to the validation of my mom, being addicted to the validation of my sisters. And I would, I remember there was a time that I would always go visit my sister and be like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And I'd be like, why do I keep coming back to tell her this is what I'm doing? I know she was like, I don't know why. Not that she was being mean, like, get the hell out of my office, and she's like, I don't care what you're doing. But I'm like, why am I doing that? Like, if I'm doing a good job and she wants to tell me I'm doing a good job, she'll tell me I'm doing a good job, right? Right? Like, I don't have to go and be like, this is what I'm doing, so she can be like, that's excellent work. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
For me, that's the difference now.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, I think, like, it's true, like, we were talking about it earlier today, like, I think earlier today or yesterday we were talking about, like, kind of, like, something related to validation, and I was, like, and you were insisting that I was, like, not being honest, because you were like, no, you're not being truthful to yourself, and you were saying that I didn't
say you were being truthful to yourself.
Because I guess my thing is that I say, like,
I don't care.
It's easy for me to say, like, I don't care. Like, no, I don't care about that. No, I don't care about this. No, I don't care what people say. No, I don't care what people think. No, I don't care. I don't care. Like, it's all, like, that's my gut.
By nature, we tend to care.
That's my gut reaction to a lot of things. It's like, like, I don't care. And what you were the point you were trying to make me see was, I guess, that I do care, to some degree.
Yes, and by default, I have to say this. I'm sorry. Let me just say this really quick. By default, I want people to pay attention really quick. by default, in nature, as a human being, by default, we tend to care what other people think. What other people think. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I like that. You said what other people think. I probably care about that more. No, I'm playing. No, but I guess when I was thinking about it after we had the conversation, I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess I do care, but for me, it's easier like when I don't want to be invested, even if I am, it's easier for me to say I don't care, and the more I tell myself I don't care, the more I believe it. The more you think you believe it, the more I think I believe it in my mind, where I'm like, yeah, that doesn't matter to me. But what I know to be true is that for me it manifests in other ways, because then I can, it can create where I'm in a bad mood, or the thought of a situation or a moment or something or a problem just gets me in a bad mindset, not in a bad mood all the way, but it just puts me in a bad mindset where I don't even want to deal with that situation, where I just don't even want to bother with it. And so when somebody brings it up, my immediate response is I don't care. I don't care.
Immediately.
I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
I don't care.
It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter and I think it's true. I do care to some degree, and I just have to be honest with myself about it and to say you know what. But I think that goes back to what I was saying before, that to me I don't end things. I don't it's easier for me to just leave things hanging and
as is,
and then be well, whatever it is, somebody will interpret that it's over.
somebody somewhere will figure it out.
Somebody will get the message that it's done.
No,
but in the meantime, you're still getting frustrated, and you're still it's still creating issues for you. Or for me in this case, it's still creating issues for me that I don't even maybe I'm not even acknowledging up front. That I'm man, that's why I've been in a pissy mood the last couple of days, because I'm pissed off about that shit, and I haven't said that I'm fucking pissed off about that shit.
Shit, hold on, what were you mad about?
No, I'm just saying.
I was shit. Do we need to turn this camera off and be what's up?
No, you know what I mean? Sometimes you hold it in, and you don't explode. You don't just let it explode. And this is what I was telling you the other day too. I was you know what? In a certain situation, I was I wish that there could just be an explosion, and then we deal with the.
I see what you're saying.
We deal with the remnants of that after.
The ramifications of what happened.
Or instead of not dealing with it.
Yeah.
So
everybody's just not dealing with it. Yeah, everybody's just not dealing with it.
That's where I'm at. I'm now I'm you know what? I'd rather have the explosion, even though I don't like the explosions. But I'd rather have the explosion, and then
I have to say,
as long as it's respectful.
Yeah, I have to say, I am definitely better at confrontation now today than I was 2 years ago. Because it's true. Guess what, people? Guess what? It's true when somebody tells you it's not personal. It's not personal. A lot of what you think is about you, it's not necessarily about you. It's about what the person is at and where they're at, either at their life, at their mindset. It can be at the moment, it can be in their lifespan. For the last 2 years, this is the way it is for them, or the last day, this is the way it is, and however the situation came out the way it happened with you. With saying that, some people are just shitty. We just have to accept some of that, and we just have to pass it on. It is what it is. Some people are just shitty. Okay. If you know that much, you shouldn't expect much out of them. But if they're not, it's really good to give people 1, 2, 3 opportunities. You know what I mean? To be okay, after this third one, si vales miedra, I don't even know how to pronounce that. Miedra. If you, yeah. So if you're just a shitty person, you're just a shitty person. Just accept it. But it's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. It you know what I mean? It's just handle it. Handling the situation can be better for everybody in the mix.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to like understand that more myself. That sometimes just dealing with the problem, like it's gonna like because the problem isn't gonna go away. Like the problem is gonna like show up in another way, and it might be worse than the first way that you could have dealt with it.
It might
be
never
like,
go away.
It might be like like it might snowball into something worse. Or if you don't deal with it when it snowballs, then it might even snowball into something bigger. And so it's like if you don't deal with it at a certain point, like sometimes it's just like I get like when the people say like time heals all wounds. And it's like really true. Like I feel like that's true. Like when no matter what it is, no matter how ugly it is, like it, like in a certain way, like no matter how difficult the conversation is, once you've had it, you've had it, and it's like you move on, whether they're hard feelings, whether they're whatever, like eventually, like you're like, oh well, that was yesterday. Today's today. Like I already had the conversation. I already had that confrontation. It's no longer. Like, it was 2 days ago now, 3 days ago. It was like 4 days ago. And then by the time you know it, it's like, oh, yeah, like, yeah, you can talk about it casually and be like, yeah, we had this conversation and it was difficult. We had this confrontation and it happened. But you know what? As a result, now this happened. And I think sometimes, like, I'm just maybe speaking for myself, like where if I don't deal with it, then I just like, it never goes away.
Yeah. Like I'm going through that right now where there's something that I'm not necessarily dealing with, but that's on a whole personal level. That's on like a whole other like level of like paradox. Like it's a whole other like
a whole other matrix.
Yeah, it's a whole other matrix that I am just not dealing with it, because it's heartbreaking, and I'm like I just. You know what I mean? So, but again, it's a whole other thing. But there are some things that I feel like getting rid of the bullshit has allowed me to think about it. Has given me the luxury to worry about it.
To worry about the situation, or to worry about.
Yeah, I don't want to call it a situation because it's not like it's not something that I can just like it's a thing, but it's like you know what I mean. Just stuff, not just stuff, but a profound thing for me.
Like you've been able to deal with like your own thoughts about it, and your own feelings about it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so once I've started to like
start saying like the stuff and like you're like wait,
I know. So once I started to remove the layers of stupid things that I was worried about, like being addicted to people validating me and stuff. Once I was able to like do away with the minutia shit, I was able to like uncover like holy shit, like I'm not dealing with this. Yeah.
Well, I think that's what it's all about. I mean, I think whatever it is that you have to go through to like grow and to get where you like, where you feel better or more confident or more whatever. I mean, and that's at the end of the day, that I feel like that's what it's all about, as opposed to just like going through, as opposed to like not really being honest with yourself and just saying like, oh, you know what, like it is what it is. That's the way I just feel, and not really ever thinking about why.
There was a saying here, a saying that I wrote down that I wanted to read. It goes as quotes: "As you get stronger, you give yourself the luxury of letting yourself feel everything." And I think that's where I'm at. Not physically stronger, none of that, but I think my mentality is like gaining a little bit of strength, and I think I'm giving myself the luxury of feeling vulnerable. Yeah.
And you didn't before? No,
because that opened me up to criticism.
So you think you're more vulnerable, but are you where you want to be?
I'm definitely closer to where I want to be than I was. Oh, for sure.
Because I feel like vulnerability is like hard for everybody, like for all of us. Because I think it's like, especially now when you think about like how much we share, like, and I don't mean to make it about social media, because I don't think that's necessarily the be all end all, but like it is such a big part of like our like culture now, that it's like you share, like everybody shares so much of themselves online that it's like, it's hard to be vulnerable, especially on social media. I feel like because there's always going to be somebody looking at you and being like, look at that, look at this, and opinionating about what you're saying, no matter where you're coming from. And I guess like when people say like, "Oh, you don't know my heart," it's kind of like,
why don't you like that saying?
I just think it.
You said that several times already, huh?
I don't know. I find it hypocritical, and I know that's probably just me.
Like cringy.
Yeah, I feel like it's like, oh, well, I don't. How am I supposed to know your heart? Like, I don't feel like I should know your heart.
Whose heart should you know?
I don't know. Like, I feel like I should know my own heart. Like, I shouldn't know yours. I don't know. That's just me. I think it's just me.
Are you so critical of people saying that? I don't understand.
Because I'm always confused by it. I'm always like, why do people say like you don't know my heart? And I'm like, I don't know it. Why is that like a thing to say? I don't know. I guess they mean like you don't know my intention, or I guess it's like you know my intention. You know where my intentions are. But, and I guess in a way it's true if you know somebody, like if you have a relationship with them. But at the same time, it's like, do you ever really know somebody?
I hope so. Like if you're in a friendship with them, or any kind of ship with them, like a friendship, relationship, a business partnership, like if you're like in that, yeah, I hope so.
But do you feel like you can ever 100% fully know somebody?
No, because sometimes we don't even 100% fully know ourselves.
Well, that's what I mean. Like, how can if you don't even fully 100% know yourself?
But that's not what they say with my heart is at.
How can I know your heart if you don't even know where your heart is?
Because they're telling you that wasn't my intention. My heart wasn't in that, into doing that. My heart, my intention was better than what it came out.
And I guess to me, like, I take that literally. Like when they say you don't know my heart, like I feel like I take it very literally, and I'm like, I don't know your heart, and I shouldn't. I shouldn't know your heart because like,
shouldn't know my heart.
Like I don't even know where my heart's gonna be at tomorrow. So like,
what does that mean, Juan?
So how can I know where your heart's gonna be tomorrow?
So then?
I don't know. It's just like, to me, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense.
The expression to me, like maybe it's like maybe it's one of those things that, that because you didn't like, you don't understand it fully because it's not like a saying that you grew up with. Like the first time I ever heard anybody say like, you don't know my heart, it was as I was an adult, well into my 30s. So I was like, what the hell does that mean?
Repeat that.
Well, I said the first time that I ever heard anybody say, you don't know my heart, I was well into my 30s. So when I've heard the expression for the first time, my reaction was like, what the hell does that mean? And why would I know your heart? And that's why I said, like, to me, maybe it's because I didn't grow up hearing that expression, so I didn't understand it. The same thing, like, when people say, like...
Yeah, but now that you understand that expression, it still bothers you.
Yeah, because I don't find it to be true. Like, but it's like when people say, like it's a Southern thing, like when you say, bless your heart, that they don't really mean to bless your heart, that they mean, like, they're cursing you out. And, like, to me, like, I don't...
It's the same for you?
Even though I grew up in the South, like, I didn't grow up with it either. So, like, when somebody told me, bless your heart... I didn't know that that's not what they meant. That it wasn't like a literal, like, oh, like in Spanish, like, Dios te bendiga. It was more like, cursing you out. So I was like, I didn't really understand that until somebody told me, like, oh, yeah. And so I was like, oh, okay. So all this time the people telling me, bless your heart.
And then?
They haven't really been telling me, bless your heart. They've been telling me, like, go to hell. I'm like, oh, okay. I see how it is. But I don't know. I guess there's expressions that you don't grow up with, and I guess that aren't familiar to you, and I just don't. I just don't get them sometimes.
Okay. And that's one of them.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Oh, okay.
What are you researching?
I have a few topics here that I wanted to talk about, but yeah. Did you want to go into some of them?
If you want to.
Well, you know what? I think we've been having a conversation for quite some time here. So I think we're going to go ahead and stop this conversation here. Otherwise, we're going to run rampant and be like in 2 hours recording. And yeah, come for the next conversation. We're going to divulge a topic that I thought was interesting. And hopefully you think of it as interesting also. And don't be like Juan. If somebody tells you, bless your heart, or somebody tells you it wasn't in my heart.
No, you don't know my heart.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. He said, you don't know my heart. Maybe you really don't, and that wasn't their intention. It's simply what they were trying to say. Don't hold a grudge like Juan.
I don't hold grudges. I know
you don't. I'm just teasing you, baby.
I don't understand it. I don't. No comprendo. No comprendo. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and
I feel like we're cutting it off really fast. Like, oh, thanks for being here, but bye.
Well, you said you wanted to cut it off.
I did, because otherwise we're going to run this one really long. So I figured we can go ahead.
I don't think this is that short. So I think probably people that are listening are probably like, yeah, no, you've been talking for a while. It's okay.
Go away.
But no. So let's wrap this one up and just say, like, thanks for listening, guys, and we appreciate it. And I guess, as always, if you want to leave us a rating or a review...
we don't even do that part.
You can go to Apple Podcasts, and you can do it there, because that really helps us to gain new listeners, to let people know that we're out here, that we out in the streets.
We're out in the streets. We're out in the streets.
Podcasting. And and for those of you...
I was going to go chow chicka wow, but that's not the streets.
And for those of you that have been... have been listening and have sent us little notes here and there and saying that you enjoyed this or you enjoyed that, thank you. We appreciate it. We hope that you continue listening.
All your comments.
Yeah.
Even the negative ones that we've got, we would have appreciated not getting the negative comments. But regardless, it sounds like you heard us anyway. So we appreciate for your listen. But leave us a comment, rating, or review, either on Apple Podcast, you're on Facebook, on Spotify, wherever you're listening to this at. The more comments and reviews and stars and likes that we get, thumbs up, the more opportunity we have to being heard by others. If you found this interesting, or if you think somebody else in your life might find this interesting, a friend, a coworker, a cousin, your wild ass cousin, send them our way. Let them know we're here. And
and with that, bless your heart.
No, stop it. And with that,
bless your heart. And we'll see you next time.
Juan, I swear to God, if you interrupt do not interrupt my flow. And with that,
we'll see you next time.
Bye.